President of Taiwan, Tsai Ing-wen, has been welcomed this week by the US Speaker, Republican Kevin McCarthy in California. Now, it's an important meeting highlighting the closeness in the relationship between the United States and Taiwan. And it's obviously a message to China that the West won't be bullied about supporting democracies. Speaker McCarthy was joined by more than a dozen Democratic and Republican politicians, but of course the meeting has been condemned by furious China, accusing the meeting of being an act of collusion and vowing to defend its sovereignty. What a surprise. Well, joining me now is Senior Analyst at the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, Malcolm Davis. Malcolm, welcome and happy Easter. It's an important meeting between Taiwan and the US this week. As I said just then, China's certainly not happy, but what is the significance of this meeting and what do you make of China's reaction?
Well, the significance of the meeting is that what you are seeing is growing concern in the United States, in Australia, in Japan and elsewhere across the Indo-Pacific region about China's intentions towards Taiwan, particularly for the second half of this decade. And I think, let's be blunt, the concern is that China will use force to try and incorporate Taiwan into the PRC against the wishes of the Taiwanese people. So as a result of those concerns, you are seeing an increasing diplomatic engagement between Western capitals and Taipei, with the aim being to strengthen the relationship such that it contributes towards deterrence of China, ultimately to make Xi Jinping get up in the morning, brush his teeth, look in the mirror and say, not today. And I think that's the goal, is we want to deter war and to deter China from attacking Taiwan.
I mean, Taiwan is the one issue really where we see strong bipartisanship between the Republicans and the Democrats in the US. Nancy Pelosi was in Taiwan last year, and then obviously McCarthy today or this week. I mean, obviously it makes China furious. They've gone so far as to move warships closer to Taiwan in response to this visit. Does doing this in any way inflame China? Should we actually be worried about the way that China responds to this stuff?
Well, as I said, the concern is that they're going to attack Taiwan anyhow, no matter what we do. So I think it's important to deter them and to strengthen the relationship with Taipei, and ideally we should be arming them now rather than waiting for the war to begin. And I think that what you could see is China getting more and more uptight about it, but we can't afford to take the attitude that we can't upset China in order to sort of protect Taiwan. So I do think that it's really important that we stand firm with Taiwan at this point.
Just staying with China, Malcolm, overnight French President Emmanuel Macron and the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen headed to China to meet with President Xi. And top of the agenda for this three-day trip, Macron wants Beijing to help play a role in ending the war in Ukraine. Now, obviously, it's only a few weeks ago Xi was in Moscow with Putin in Russia. I mean, there was no sign then that Beijing was keen to convince Putin to wind up the war. Will Macron be more successful here in convincing Xi? I mean, I must say, I remain to be convinced.
Look, I don't think he will. I think that the Macron visit hasn't gone necessarily all that well in China. He made a faux pas in a speech next to Xi Jinping where he spoke longer than Xi Jinping. And you know, I think Xi was getting quite annoyed that Macron was speaking longer than him. You know, I think that you will see the Macron return to Paris empty-handed, really, maybe some trade deals with China, but there won't be any peace deal essentially in the offing, because Russia doesn't want peace in Ukraine. It ultimately wants to continue the war. It wants to extend the conflict so that it can ultimately win. It feels that Western support for Ukraine is starting to ebb away. And I think from China's perspective, they would like to see a Russian victory, or they would like to see a stalemate in the conflict so that the US is tied down in Europe and maybe not as well able to support Taiwan in a future crisis in the second half of this decade.
Malcolm, happy Easter and thank you for joining us tonight.